To be the voice for the voiceless.
About the exploitation of indigenous people and communities here in Mindanao.
To be quite honest, their situation has been barely talked about by the news.
We do hope that some people will actually take action on this.
Remember, to achieve something, you have to take small steps. Welcome to Native Narratives, the podcast where the preservation of cultural stories is drawn and the voices of today's indigenous communities live on. For today's episode, I'll be joined by Ayana Angeles as we have a meaningful conversation with the Indigenous Change Advocates. Let us welcome our guest speakers, Julian Candaba, Neil Ong, CJ Pobre, and Keith Sarkinia. Greetings, Indigenous Change Advocates. The name you go by gave me the impression that we will be having a purposive conversation. I am truly happy to take part in this podcast as a host because the thought of listening to advocates excites me, as that it would mean that you chose to be the voice of who and what you are advocating for. I know, right? Who would have thought there are still people who advocate for the voiceless, not just by reacting online, but by actually spending their time productively and passionately to reach those who need help. But I'm curious, and I'm sure the audience is too. What inspired you to become advocates for indigenous communities? Let us have each of you share your thoughts, starting with CJ.
Actually, I didn't expect to be part of this group, the Indigenous Change Advocates. Mind you, I wasn't close to any of them before. This all started when I volunteered to be part of the production team for our school's event, Dayo ng mga Manobo. Before the program began, the names of the indigenous representatives were mixed up, and some were spelled incorrectly. I pointed it out, not knowing that Julian was the one who had edited the presentation.
Yeah, I was a rookie and I was really anxious about it.
Keith and I are Julian's friends, and we feel a strong sense of duty to advocate for the indigenous community. We believe they play a crucial role in protecting the lands and forests across the Philippines.
We also had a project, excluding CJ, that focused on creating a poster for an advocacy contest in our school. We believe that with our passion, it was an opportunity for us to be the voice of the cause and put our goals into action.
Yes, that happens before we met CJ. But after the presentation incident, we became close and invited him to be part of our video advocacy. To clarify, there are two contests. The poster, which served as a teaser for the video advocacy, and which was the main publication material. This video really required us to gain many views and engagement on our social media.
Basically, that was the start, and we just continued communicating with each other. We actually won the contest, which fueled our passion for advocating and standing up for a goal, to be the voice for the voiceless. That's when Indigenous Change Advocates came to be.
What a story! Indeed, you were united as one. My first reaction was, what a coincidence! But I later realized it was all part of your destiny, volunteering and advocating. Wasn't that so inspiring, Aliana? Couldn't put into words. That was indeed a too good to be true story. I can't believe the time and effort it took for you to complete the projects, as I've seen just how hardworking you all are to get the best results. When I heard you talk about how you started advocating, your eyes sparkled. I hope that spark never leaves your eyes. No matter how globally present the issue you're advocating for becomes, remember, to achieve something, you have to take small steps. Now, let's proceed with hearing your insights about your advocacy. I'm sure you'll explain it really well, as I believe you are more than knowledgeable about your theme or topic. First, could you please tell us what you are advocating for?
Now, what are we advocating for? First of all, the theme of our advocacy is about the exploitation of marginalized communities in Mindanao despite the existing protection and preservation efforts. Now, what do we mean by that exactly? In other words, it is about the exploitation of indigenous people and communities here in Mindanao.
Correct. Our advocacy focuses on the exploitation of indigenous communities in Mindanao. It really highlights what the community has been through. They have been exploited and abused, and to be quite honest, their situation has been barely talked about by the news. And only situations with high attractions were shown.
Indeed, we've realized these exploitations and are enraged and infuriated with how little people are aware of this situation. And now we are motivated and determined to spread awareness and help address this issue. These people should be treated as people and have society not look down upon them.
Oh, I see. So your advocacy's main focus is about how ancestral lands or indigenous people are impacted or exploited despite the existing protection and preservation efforts already implemented. Now, what are the specific actions you plan on doing or implementing for your advocacy?
Well, yes. Our advocacy's main focus is about committing to the exploited communities. I believe that we will help and uphold our advocacy by doing small actions that contributes to our advocacy.
We actually just did one of our planned goals, that being our advocacy video. It was just recently published, and we actually made that video so that we could inform as many people as possible about their experiences. We do hope that some people will actually take action in this.
We do appreciate the lengths you went for to help those in need. I really do think that the indigenous people would appreciate your efforts too, and I hope that people would join you in helping them recover from the exploitation done to them. Those were some very respectable answers. Now, on to our last question. What is your vision for your advocacy? What do you want to see once you fulfill your plans?
That's a good question. We want to see a society where indigenous people are treated as a part of society, equal to everyone, and treated with respect. A place where it's normal to have indigenous people out in everyday life without any discrimination.
Indeed, the majority of the society is unaware of what the real situation is to the other communities. These people has been suffered to unjust killings and abuse, and they have been relocated away from their ancestral lands.
We intend to help the indigenous people to be treated as equals in society. Their suffering must be known, and we, the public, should help them as they recover from their negative experience.
Now that we are reaching the end of this podcast, any last words or message you guys would like to express to our listeners?
Yes, we hope that this podcast will help people of all ages to be motivated to cooperate with each other and work together as one to aid this group of the indigenous people.
We are working on newer projects, and aid from the public can be very helpful and very appreciated.
If you ever want to participate helping with us, feel free to contact us through our Gmail and to our phone number.
Thank you all very much for coming into this podcast and sharing your advocacy here with us. But now this concludes another episode of Native Narratives featuring Indigenous Change Advocates. See you in our next episode! In every episode, there's a special moment. This podcast will end with me and Aliana discussing our insights from the episode with the Indigenous Change Advocates.
Yes, As the invited host of Native Narratives, I've learned so much from you, Ross, and the guest speakers.
I'm glad to hear that, Aliana. I was really nervous about whether you'd be able to connect with the audience, since this is your first time hosting a podcast, right?
Yeah, I was nervous at first, but it was really fun chatting, asking questions to the advocates. They're people on a mission that benefits everyone.
That gives me chills. How was your overall experience? Do you think you'd want to host more podcasts with me?
Definitely. Hosting has been my dream for as long as I can remember. I've always been afraid of speaking, but I've learned to love it. That's why I'm here today. Your invitation is a great opportunity for me to grow, meet new people, and get exposed to hosting. I never thought speaking could be this fun.
Wait, is this a universal experience for hosts? Being afraid of speaking but learning to love it? That's so logical and amazing. I hope I and your future guests can inspire you even more to be passionate about hosting and speaking. Your potential should never go to waste.
You're making me shy. You'll play a big role in my journey as a host.
I'd love that. Speaking of advocacy, what is your advocacy?
My advocacy closely aligns with what we've been hearing from the Indigenous Change Advocates today. I truly believe that Indigenous people play a critical role in protecting our environment. No one safeguards the land better than they do. It's not just about maintaining forests or ecosystem. It's about a deep ancestral connection to the land that has been passed down through generations. Indigenous communities understand the environment in ways that others cannot because they've lived in harmony with it for centuries.
That's such a powerful point, Aliana. And I think it's incredible how you're highlighting the importance of this knowledge and connection to the land. Indigenous people truly are the stewards of the earth.
Exactly, Ross. And there's something else that I've come across in research. Indigenous communities face immense challenges, and a lot of it comes from the ignorance or neglect of laws and rights that are supposed to protect them. Sadly, society often takes advantage of those perceived as weak or uneducated, but in reality, they hold the most valuable knowledge for safeguarding the environment.
I completely agree. It's so easy for others to overlook their contributions, but they are absolutely essential in preserving our natural world. We can't just expect one person to handle everything on their own, especially when it comes to protecting the land and environment.
Yes, Ross. Protecting the environment is not a job that can be done alone. You can't expect someone to support their family and also single-handedly protect the forests of Mindanao or any other region. It requires a collective effort, and that's where Indigenous people come in. Their knowledge is invaluable, yet so often it's ignored.
Exactly. And I think the key here is recognizing that Indigenous people have a purpose. They're fighting for their land, their rights, and their future. And it's something we all need to support.
Yes, Indigenous people are not just preserving the environment, they're fighting for their existence and their culture. We need to be more proactive in amplifying their voices and advocating for their rights. They have so much to offer, and their contributions are vital for the future of our planet.
That's right, Aliana. I truly hope that more people will recognize the importance of Indigenous communities and join their fight for justice. It's time for us to stand alongside them and make sure their voices are heard.
I couldn't agree more, Ross. Indigenous people have been fighting for their rights for so long, and it's up to us to help them in their mission. We can all play a part in ensuring their voices are not silenced. Let's make sure we advocate for them and support their work in protecting our planet.
Yeah, sadly, Indigenous people are often judged based on their appearance, their traditional clothing, and even their way of life. People tend to see them as uneducated or backward, simply because they don't fit the modern Western mold. But in reality, they hold invaluable knowledge, like how to process CADTs or certificates of ancestral domain title, to secure their rightful land. The problem is, they aren't always given the support they need to go through the proper legal channels and obtain these important documents. It's a huge injustice.
Right, Ross. It's so frustrating because they know how to navigate these systems. They've been fighting for their rights for generations, but without the right resources and the support, it's incredibly difficult for them to secure what's rightfully theirs. It's time we start recognizing their strength and resilience, not judging them for their appearance or for being different. They deserve our support and respect.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eliana, for sharing your insights today. And thank you to all of you who tuned in. It's important to keep these conversations going. Together, we can help amplify Indigenous voices and advocate for real change. Let's stand by them and support their fight for justice. Thank you.